welcome everyone to the Marriage Hour. We really appreciate you joining us again. And if it's your first time, thank you for allowing us to speak into your homes, into your families, and into you. Tonight's slightly different, but the same rules apply. We're going to ask you to please keep your microphones off. I see they're all off anyway. It just gets very noisy out there. If you want to put your camera on so we can see your faces, you are more than welcome to do that. But other than that, everything's as usual. You're reminded that there is a chat option where you can put any questions that you may have, and then we'll address that maybe as we go through the discussions or at the end. If you have comments, questions, whatever you want to have.
Yes.
But again, to each and every one of you, welcome to the Marriage Hour with Lundy and Henry. I just turned it the other way around. Did you check that? Anyway, I'm getting more smart by the moment. Yeah.
You want to introduce the
Yes.
guests?
Well, I introduced the guests of the hour. We've got Bertie and Yolanda. Two incredible people in the community, two amazing people to know and call friends and call a steadfast pillar, I believe, in this community, especially where it comes to our youth, the youngsters growing up, and the kids that are being taught and raised and influenced.
Molded by two incredible people.
Yeah, we are really honored to have these people in our community, in our area, and know them, which is even better.
Awesome.
Yeah, no further ado. Hello, welcome, Bert and Yolanda.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having us. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for those kind words.
Pleasure.
They were meant, every single one of them.
Yeah. It's always nice, and it's quite interesting. This is the first time we're doing a bit of an interview thing. So this is going to be interesting, to say the least. And bear with us as we find our feet. Yeah. But your story, guys, is quite a story. It's like we've heard it I've heard it, I think now 3 times.
And we followed the story.
And we followed the story, and we were part of the story while on the outskirts of the story. And your story is quite an interesting story. Don't you guys kind of just want to tell us more about it for those that don't know you, that they can get a insight into the Bert and Yolanda story?
Yes, so I'll kick us off, and then Yolanda can fill in as we go.
Chip in.
She'll chip in. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to say she's good at it, but she will do that. Yeah, so we've known each other for years. She can chip in. How many years? for 16 years, and we've been married for 8 years. I think we're going for our 9th year of marriage now. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. So yes, we met when we were quite young, and then we've dated for a very long time, and we got married. Now that's just the beginning of it. And now at the moment we have got 2 children. One is Benjamin, who is 4 years old, and the other one is Noah, who is, it's always difficult to say, but I think he's
turning 11 months. Story, because he was born earlier, he's supposed to be 8 months.
Yeah.
So developmentally, he's 8 months.
Yes. So what happened with us is Yolanda fell pregnant, which I don't know how that happens, but it happens with our with our first son Benjamin, and that was already for us something where he was born a month early. So he was born a month early, and it was already a shocker to us, like, oh, we didn't go home with our baby, and he was in ICU for a week, and we needed to figure that out. And we thought, well, okay, that at least now we're done with those things, and our next child would be a lot better. And then Yolanda got pregnant again, which turned out to be a miscarriage. And then she got pregnant again. And that was a big journey for us, because at 27 weeks, so the doctor kept on monitoring the pregnancy and all of those things. but there was always a bit of a worry because they said he wasn't growing how he should be growing, and he was very underneath the
Very small for
yeah
the norm.
yeah, so he's very small for a normal sized child, and they wanted to send us for some extra scans.
Yeah.
They couldn't find anything wrong with him except the fact that he was growing very, very slow.
Okay.
And then at 27 weeks, we were going to go for another scan, an in-depth scan, to find out if there's anything, why all of these things are happening. But before that happened, Yolanda came home. I'll never forget, myself and Benjamin was busy in the garage, and we were busy working on a motorbike. She came home from school because she's a teacher, stopped at the house, went up she greeted us, she went up the stairs, and we were still busy in the garage, and all of a sudden she came down just in a massive panic, and she said, we need to go. There's just blood everywhere. So chucked Benjamin in the car, and we raced to the hospital. On our way to the hospital, we phoned the hospital, we explained to them what's happening. And it's, I mean, I'll never forget that day. On that day, like my hazards on my car wasn't working, and nobody wanted to give way for us to get past, and there was huge traffic and just so many things. But I think we made it to Bloberg Hospital in like, I don't know, something like 7 or 8 minutes. We really rushed, we got there. And then everything just happened very quickly. At the hospital, even the doctor was panicking. The gynecologist was really stressing. He ran around, and the nurse was busy putting in a drip, and she wasn't doing it fast enough for his liking. So he grabbed it and he started putting in the drip, and so everything was going really quickly. He shouted, "Get a wheelchair, get a wheelchair!" And he shouted for me to get the lift, and it was crazy. And at that moment we didn't know what was really happening. They rushed her into the theater, and they said something bad happened, and they needed to do emergency, I don't know what you call that thing.
Cesarean.
C-section. Yes, cesarean, C-section. They need to do that an emergency as quick as possible. And yes, in that moment.
So the doctor actually said, so the doctor actually said while he did the scan, he ran out of the room and he said, we need to take this baby out right now.
Wow.
And I was still lying there. I'm like, okay, but doctor, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. So he rushed back, and then he probably realized, okay, I need to explain. So he said my placenta tore quite extensively. I think on the scan he said it seemed already at 50%.
Wow.
But it tore away. So yeah, you can carry on.
Yeah, and then he also said to us that there's a liter of I think it's blood that she's already bled inside internally. So it was very bad. And I remember they rushing her into the theater, and they told me to get some clothes on, and I ran to some room there and put clothes on and all those things. And there's always a laughter to these situations. When I got out, the nurse said to me, "Sir, you got some shoes on your head." So apparently I put that thing that you have to put on your feet, I put over my head. So yeah, she helped me out, got the right stuff on for me. And then I was about to go into the doors by the theater, and she said, "I can't let you go in." I said, "Why not?" And she said, "Because the doctor said he doesn't know if they're going to make it." Wow. And that was for me there. I think there, I mean, all the other time, I think, everything was all right, but there it hit me quite hard. And she pulled out a chair for me, and she said, "Sit here." And the doctor just said, it looks very bad. He doesn't know if he's going to, her words were, the doctor's going to see who he can save.
Wow.
And in that moment, I was like, "Lord, why is this happening? Like, why are we in a situation like this?" And, lots of questions, all that stuff. And about 10 minutes, the doctor came out, and he said, "Listen here, you can come in. Your wife is all right, and your baby is born." Wow. So I remember coming in, and they were busy stitching up Yolanda. And then here was a small little baby. He was born at 27 weeks, weighing 800 grams. And they put him in a Ziploc bag, a small little, it looked like a bunk sucky. I know what you call like a bunk sucky, that they put him in for heat and stuff. So here's this little baby lying on this metal table in a Ziploc bag, with only his head out. And I remember looking at that and going like, man, how is he gonna make it? They took him up to the ICU, and then we had to wait. We waited till I think 11 that night. Was I think around there, 10 or 11 was the first time we heard anything from them. And that's how our journey became. So in a nutshell, he was in ICU for about 3 months. He had lots of pipes in his nose, and it was just, we're going forward, going backwards, going forward. We needed to drive to the hospital every day.
Sorry. So I think in normal pregnancies, I think at 35 weeks only, the lungs mature. So 27 weeks, having my placenta test so quickly, they had no chance to give me any cortisone for his lungs to quickly develop or anything. So his lungs was really, he really struggled to get those first breaths going and for the lungs to inflate enough for him to be able to breathe on his own. So he was, I think he was on breathing support for 28 days or something. And that was the first time that they could, or 32 days. He was on breathing support. So that was the first day that they could take all the machines. So he went through every single breathing machine in that ICU, from the ventilator, high flow, everything. He had, at one stage, he had I think they call it a CPAP mask, like a mask thing over his head. And it was just, it was awful to see him like that. So.
And some of the things that was really tough is things like we would get there and he would have made so much progress, and then the next day he's all the way back again, and they back with the old machines, and that's pipes that they put in his nose all the way to his lungs and then take it out again, and they put things like a line, some pipe in from his foot all the way into his heart. So that was a lot of things to deal with, and next to him was also lying prem babies because he was in the premature ICU, and the wrestle was that some days we got there and a baby didn't make it. For instance, one that lied next to our son didn't make it, and then you see just the devastation, and you go through all of those things, and then you go home and you think like, ours is still alive, and you don't know what tomorrow holds. So we really took it day by day, if I can put it like that. And then for about 3 months ICU, lots of hospital bills, lots of traveling to the hospital, but we got home. We managed to get home,
and he's beautiful now. He's absolutely beautiful.
He's doing so well. He's crawling, he has good teeth, he's sitting by himself, he's doing amazing. And
one thing that I can say just with this, he's probably the upside of it is that he smiles the whole time. It's almost like he's stuck at a smile, and it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing, so much joy, and it's such a blessing for us to see that, because what we've gone through, and to be able to see him now, the joy that he brings us, it's almost like you'll go through it again and again. Not that you want to, but just the reward of, what a blessing it is.
So the reward was ease, quite incredible, and almost hides all that struggle that you went through. In a sense. We were honored and privileged to see him earlier when we had a chat with you guys just in prep. And I must say, from those initial photos that came through on that WhatsApp group, to say, here he is, he's doing all right. The one that stood out for me was, and we might put this in the video as we do it with your with a pen, and then with your finger back next to him, and it was unbelievable to try and believe that that's a living human being. It was very mind-boggling. So it's really incredible to see him doing well, and to see him prospering, and to see him growing in your family and in your arms and in your life, which is really incredible. So we have a few questions for you, just to explore your journey really around this, because I think a lot of us have heard the journey that Noah had and the struggles that you had with that. But you as a married couple, and you're still there, and you're still sitting next to each other, and occasionally smiling at each other. We just want to explore that journey for a moment. Sure, bad like that, she might run. So one of the questions I want to ask you is, how did you balance marriage and parenthood with the demands and the stress that you were going through? Because you still had Ben, and you still had marriage, and then you still had this dashing backwards and forward to the hospital. And when I say
the fears and the stress and everything that was going along with it, how did you balance married life in that chaos?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so I think wil jy gaan?
Yeah, gaan?
Ja, gaan.
Yeah, it was extremely difficult. I must say, I think for me as a mom and wife and everything else that comes with it, it was extremely difficult to find a balance. I think some days there wasn't balance, and some days the balance was more. But I think it was really stressful, and I think in marriage, he kind of stepped up more to the plate in terms of taking on a lot of the things, not my roles, but a lot of responsibilities that I had. He kind of took up in terms of seeing, okay, he needs to support me there, and he stepped up, and he kind of in terms of like Benjamin, a lot of the stuff he took over that I usually did. He took over and got Benjamin ready for school, fetched him from school, got him bath, got him in bed, got everything like around Benjamin, just to make the load for me a little bit easier. And I think in that way our marriage also obviously benefited, because that was what I needed the most at that stage. What I needed support, I needed him to kind of just step in and lighten the load for me. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, for me it was really realizing that at the moment I couldn't do much for the little baby, and he needed Yolanda more than he needed me, because there was just so much more that she could offer for him than what I could do. So I realized that the only thing that I could do is to support and to make her job a lot, well, say job, but her load a lot lighter. And I mean, I think our boy was then just 3 years or so, Benjamin, and a 3-year-old is lots of work. So it was really trying to sort those things out to be able, because it adds stress to any marriage. Anything that you bring into a marriage, you get married and it's already difficult, but then you add children, it's so much more difficult, or just so much more responsibility. So I realized that the more responsibility I take, the more load I take off her, and the less she has to worry about, and more focus on just getting through what we need to get through.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I want to honor you for that, Bert. It's not many men that actually step into that, and I want to honor you for being a man that sacrificed himself for his wife, because I'm sure that must have been incredibly difficult for you because of your worries. I'm sure you were worried, but you needed to step out of that worry and actually pick up that responsibility and continue to go and be that strong pillar, both for Yolanda and for the rest of the family. And I want to honor you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can imagine as a husband, you're seeing your wife in distress, and there's not really much you can do other than support her. And that's really where we look at the roles. Half of the man's role is really to support. And we're there really to cover each other in our weakness. Because we can't each both be strong all the time. And sometimes one of us would be going through a difficult time, and instead of the other one wallowing in the difficult time with the other,
nothing will get done.
Then it's very in a good relationship, you're going to be looking at the stronger partner in that area to be taking the lead, and that takes nothing away from you, Yolanda, because I'm sure that you, in your role, also needed to find strength. that couldn't have been easy. All right, so the next question. Tell us about 2 of the most difficult areas within your marriage in that time, before or after, and how you overcame those.
I think definitely one definitely was, so now the time that the 2 of us had together was a lot less. So that was a definite, even though, like, for instance, before all of that happened, we've got crazy days or whatever, but we'll sit and we'll eat together and we'll maybe watch something on TV together and we'll chat or we like to have coffee. So we'll have some coffee and chat. So that
Good
was
coffee.
Yeah. So that was a lot different in the sense of you're just tired. You finished. You're tired. You've been at hospital and all those things. So I'd say one challenge was definitely a difficult part was that there wasn't a lot of that. So time to actually sit and connect in that sense. And then the other one for me definitely was that the 2 of us dealt with it differently. So Yolanda would deal with it. So for her, she needed to talk. She likes to talk, and she likes to talk about stuff. She needed to talk through these things and the emotions and so what she's feeling and all of those things. And I'm completely different. I don't talk a lot about these things. I work it out in my head, and when I've worked it out, then I go. I don't sit and I don't really talk much about it. So that was we needed to get through those things, and I'd say that was a challenge. Yeah.
And I think that's where I think that was one of the major challenges in the whole thing, is finding out, okay, how do we deal with it differently? Because at a stage, I remember I was so worried about Bertie, because on my island, he's not dealing with it the way that he should. In my mind, he's not talking about it. He's just carrying on. And I was like, oh my soul, he's going to somewhere, this pot is going to boil over and then stuff's going to come out. So for me, like he said, I needed to talk. So I was talking the whole time. I was talking about this and how I'm feeling and how I'm coping and how everything was just, and as I talk, I process and then I deal with it. But he gets his, like he said, he gets his head into, this is survival. This is what we just need to get through this. And that's how he dealt with it. So we actually had to sit down and have a conversation. And I said to him, I'm scared that you're not dealing with it. And then we actually had to chat and be like, okay, but you deal with it differently, and that's okay. It's okay for you to talk about it and to get it out, and I'll give you the space to do that. And then I needed to realize, like, okay, but this is the way that he deals with it. And I needed to give him his space to just carry on and not take it upon myself to make him feel better because he's not showing anything. So yeah, I think that was, and that's where a lot of the stuff that we learned from the previous things that we learned from you guys, the marriage journey, came in, where you needed to understand you're 2 different people. And you see things differently, and that is okay.
Yeah. If I can say, I think that's really true. Just the whole island thing, that this is how I operate, that's how she operates. And to actually remember the expression you guys said is you take your shoes off and you get in the sand on the other person's island. And for me, it is always like, but why are you so emotional about these things? Or why do you need to talk about everything? Just don't talk so much. And for her, it's the other side of like, why are you not talking? Like, I mean, I've had friends come over to the house and go like, hey, are you all right? And are you fine? And do you want to talk? And I was like, no, I don't. I'm all good. But it's really just because, But how I operate is like I to really in my head sort it out with the Lord, and then I make a decision and I go with it. Yeah. And once that was for the 2 of us, we caught that. And by no means did we not argue about these things like, hey, but you need to talk, or you need to share, or you need to not talk so much or whatever, until we realized, okay, we are actually different, and we need to look at this differently. I think that was a big thing, yeah.
That's awesome.
Incredible. All right, so with that said,
I've got a question for you, Bert.
oh yeah,
yes. How did you practically fulfill your role as husband during this time? So, I mean, you were going through a lot of struggle and worries yourself, and I mean, we know the role of the husband. And how did you practically, for some of the people that are watching, how did you practically in your mind get that mission and say, okay, this is what I needed to do? Because I think when you're going through so much chaos, you don't know if Noah's going to make it. You don't know if what's happening. How did you practically say, okay, this is what I need to do. This is my responsibility. This isn't my responsibility. And I need help here. So asking people for help.
Yeah. So what there's something that's always helped me so much, and it's a scripture, and I think it's in Deuteronomy where God says, today I put before you life and death, a blessing and a curse, now you choose.
Yes.
And I think that's something that I've realized through this time through that time so much, is that I'm either going to choose a life or I'm going to choose death. So if I choose a life, then it means that I need to speak life over situations, and I need to tackle it as if there is going to be life in the situation.
Yeah.
And that means to, even if you have a tough and a bad day, to really be positive about it and to look at it positive and to speak just positiveness over the whole situation. So I think that's something that I really learned a lot from. And how did it work in our marriage? Like I said previously, on fulfilling roles, I realized that I need to take a bigger responsibility. And I have to be honest, it was really difficult in the beginning, because I love my surfing and I love my motorbike riding and I love the outdoors. I love the outdoors. So it was a lot of stuff where I needed to really wrestle with and go, okay, but this isn't important at the moment. There's a lot more important than what you want or what you need or all those things. And to be able to realize that I need to be there for Yolanda more than ever before. So in practically, I took a lot more care of Benjamin. I almost did everything that I needed to do to just make sure that he's all right. And then things like food and those things, I try to sort that out and to make sure that those things, that Yolanda doesn't need to worry about it. I cleaned the house more than ever before. I washed my dishes than ever
The
before.
dishwasher wasn't a problem this time.
Yeah. And I think it was actually over that time that our dishwasher broke. Yeah. So the Lord has really got a way of teaching us character.
Okay.
Yeah, so definitely that. And then also just to be able to, definitely other thing for me was to be able to also rely on other people. So I'm very much a person that I get stuff done and I do what needs to be done. And if you don't do it fast enough or whatever, then I do it and I just whatever. But there was a lot of that where people offered to bring food and all those things, and food would pitch up way late or whatever, but to realize that we need that and we need people. So I think as a husband, I had to realize that, I needed other people in this time as well.
In a sense that you're not an island. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to add, I know it's his question to answer,
No, go for
but
it.
from my side, what I saw, where I saw him step into his role as a husband big time was just in terms of protecting me. So when days, I tried most of the time to be okay and to cope well, but there were days where I just was not feeling well and where I was just very emotional, where I just needed to have a breakdown. And he was always there, not judging, not saying, come on, pull yourself together. He was always there supporting me and protecting, in a sense of going like, you know what, I'm your safe place. I'll give you a hug. And he would just hold me. And I would cry and I would feel better afterwards. And I'm thinking about, I think in one of the sessions that we joined with you guys, Randy, you said sometimes you just go to Henry for a Jesus hug. Yes. And that's the image that comes into my mind of those days. He was really a pillar of strength for me, where I could just, the days where it wasn't going well in my heart, where I could just go and lean against him and just be be refreshed. And I remember this one day there was an issue with, because he came early, I was on unpaid maternity leave, so that was a massive stress for us. And the UIF and the stuff didn't work out the way we were planning, and I just started to cry because it was just another thing added to the list. And I just remember he said, "Don't worry, I'm going to sort it out." And that wasn't necessarily his problem directly to sort it out, because it's my work, so it's got to do with my work. But he stepped in and he said, "You can't deal with this now, I'm going to deal with it." So he also saw, okay, there's some areas where he can't do anything, but the areas where he actually could do things, he really stepped in, and he really, he was really a great support and a great strength. And
well done, Bert. Well done. Very proud of you.
That's awesome.
So I need to ask you, Yolanda, is you guys, Bert mentioned that you guys love connecting and you love having your coffee, good coffee. I mean, Bert, your coffee is good.
It's very good.
Good coffee. How did you get that connection back? Because at some point you didn't have that connection. You didn't really have that time. So sometimes when you don't have something, you don't miss it, and then you forget to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not part of your life anymore. How did you get that back?
So I don't know if we have it entirely back. Like, lockdown was like we needed to be in each other's face the whole time. But having two kids around, it's still difficult to sort of connect with each other. But we, even during that time with Noah in the hospital, some of our amazing friends offered to watch Benjamin for over the weekend or whatever, so that we can just have an hour to go for coffee and to sit and chat. Or we dropped Benjamin off at the parents or the grandparents at times, and we went to go have a movie, just do stuff to get away. And actually, the beginning of the year, we said we need to actually carve out time for just the two of us, where we can just do something without the kids, without having to run around, run behind them, or whatever, sort them out. So we actually made a list of dates that we still want to do when lockdown is finished, of things where we can maybe just once a month go and do something, just the two of us. But I think in everyday life, it's a lot of small decisions, a lot of small actions that we also need to take, where we can just check, okay, this one's not doing too great. Hey, are you okay? Is there anything I can help you with? Or while we're having our coffee in the morning, throughout all the craziness, just chatting and just keeping that communication going, in a sense.
So if there was one thing that you would do differently, looking back, you've got 2020 vision now, you're looking back, what is the one thing that you would have done differently?
It's a difficult thing, because in that situation you don't necessarily know. You can't actually change. It's difficult to answer that question, like, because you can't actually. I don't think I could have handled things in a better way. Not that I want to blow my own whistle, but I was really, that was actually a time for me where I felt like I had a lot of strength, and obviously it came from God, a lot of peace, a lot of strength, a lot of self-control. So I think if I can put a spin on the question or on my answer, if I look back to where and how I acted in that crazy, hectic time, I think now I would want to take a few of those things and a few of my attitudes and actions and apply it to now. In terms of, like what Betty said, like we were really in a place where we were like, we have to choose life. In that stage, you can't afford to choose death. You can't afford to choose fearful thoughts, because then you'll go crazy, because your mind will go like, okay, but what if this happens? And what if there's a power surge or whatever at the hospital and the machines go off, or what. So you can just go on and on and on. So we couldn't afford to have those thoughts. And I think now that we're out of all the hecticness of needing to depend on life thoughts, now it's so much easier to not always choose life, to sometimes step into frustration, to sometimes step into that irritation of like, the kids are driving me crazy and I'm tired and da. So I think that's my spin on the answer. I would really want to take a lot of what I did back then and apply it now, and to choose life more every day, in the craziness as well.
Yeah. Then Bert, same question for you.
Yeah, I think, to be very honest, I think I would have wanted to be a bit more, and it's going to sound weird, but less selfish. And why I say that is, or less wrestle in my head about being selfish.
Yeah.
So I know what I needed to do, and I did it. There was always this walking with Benjamin on the beach, knowing like I can't go for a surf, and to die to the flesh more. Even though I did die to the flesh, it was still like you wrestle with it. You're like, man, like this or that. But to actually, if I could have done it different, I would have realized that there's so much more important things in life than what you really need and want, or what you want. If that makes sense. I think to be a little bit less selfish.
Yeah. That's an interesting one, just in general concept. It's amazing that when we in the difficult times, we learn to cope with them. But when we're in good times, just adding to yours, when we're in good times, then we're very quick to complain about the nigglies that hit us.
Sure.
But likewise, Bert, as what you're saying is, it's so difficult to give up those things you like, even for the one you love most. Hey, I mean, it's spoken about 4 rights that I do the things that I don't want to do, and I don't do the things I should do. I mean, it's clearly there, and it's amazing how real that is. That even it's very easy to get into a position and sacrifice yourself for your partner, and then later on hold it against it.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I gave up for you? And then it becomes my argument point, and it becomes my self-righteousness.
And when you need something, it's, but I did that for you, why don't you do that for me?
Yeah.
It becomes a contentious topic in a marriage. Eh?
And if I hear it right from the two of you, is you took this and you each had your role to play, and you played that role to the best of your ability. And it's thanks for your honesty there. But I'm sure that right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, you find that you are less selfish when it comes to Yolanda and the kids than what you might have been before.
Yeah, I hope so.
Maybe I should ask Yolanda the question.
Probably.
Well, he hasn't gone for a surf since lockdown has been kind of easy, since he's allowed to. So I think shame. I think it has become maybe a little bit easier. I don't think it's ever easy. I don't think you can ever say it's easy to die to self. But I think as you grow and as your character gets strengthened and as your character gets developed, a lot of things become easier.
Yeah.
I have a question for you both. So I'm going to ask the question, whoever wants to answer it first can do so. Is pre this disaster and post it. And Yolanda, if you can look at Bert, and Bert, you can look at Yolanda. And can you tell us maybe one thing, a character or a habit that was broken, or a character change for the positive that actually happened through this crisis that you've personally experienced or seen from each other?
Yeah.
Yes. You go first.
Now she wants to submit. Okay, so I think Yolanda, in a way, this is what I see. I think she's learned to trust me a bit more. I think so. I think it's been more in a sense of, so two things that stick out for me. I think she's learned to trust me more, that I actually do have their best interest at heart. And I'm not a fly by night. I'm here today and gone tomorrow. But I'm actually here to stay, and I have best interest at heart. And even through difficult times, that I'll be there for her. I've seen her grow in that, and also in the fact that through this, just how positive she's taken it, and the positive attitude behind it. I think there's many times where I wondered, like, how is she actually being so positive and just staying so positive in this situation? And she'd always say, "Oh, God just kept carrying me through it." But there's definitely been a change there in just the way that she looks out on life, or looks at life. If that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I think for you, for Bertie, I think Grace, I think he has grown a lot in grace. Like he is a person who naturally has a lot of grace for people. But I think he has definitely grown in grace in terms of understanding my heart and understanding my emotions. Where previously he would, when I start to cry or when I have a little bit of a wobbly or whatever, then he would oftentimes would have gone like, "Oh, what's wrong with you now again?" Where after this, I'm allowed to have a wobbly, and he's more graceful with it, and he's more like, "Okay, what's wrong?" And he'll come and he'll give me a hug, and he'll allow me to have my wobbly, and he'll allow me to say why I'm having my wobbly, and there won't be a lot of judgment, there won't be a lot of criticism, so there won't be, not a lot, but there won't be, point. So I think he has definitely grown in it. And I think one thing that, I don't know if that's where there was a turning point, but the one thing that stands out in my mind was when the day we left the hospital, just after the C-section. So we need to leave Noah in the hospital. So I'm going home without him, and I was very emotional, and I was actually angry, and I acted in an angry way. And we left the hospital, and Bertie's like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you acting like this?" And I just burst out crying. And I said to him, "I have to leave the hospital for a second time without my baby. The first time Benjamin wasn't allowed to come home with us. Now I need to leave." And I think then he clicked, and he was like, "I'm so sorry. I realize now." And from there, it was almost like he had more grace for me when I acted in a certain way, because he knew it wasn't necessarily towards him. It was something going on inside of me. So yeah, well done.
So one more question your way, Yolanda, and this is the unscripted, half-scripted one, all right, is so often when, especially around children, when there's a trauma or when there's a crisis or there's that fear of loss or that possibility of losing a child, women or mothers become very motherly. It kind of starts consuming their life. My little baby, my little everything. And sometimes you tend to forget about your husband. How's that going for you?
Should I answer or should Bertie answer?
You answer it, and then we'll see if Bertie agrees.
Now I'm going to be quiet.
I think when all of this was going on, that was really a big battle inside of my heart, because I had a baby in the hospital, I had a toddler at home, I had a husband, and a month after my C-section, I went back to work again until Noah came out of the hospital. So I had a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of days I felt like I don't know how to juggle it all. I felt like completely like, what am I doing? How am I going to get to everybody? And I think a lot of the times I didn't get it right to have that balance of this is actually my husband needs to be here and Benjamin and everything else needs to be there. I didn't often get it right because I think there was a time where I realized, because at a time Benjamin, because I would go to the hospital every afternoon and not have any time with Benjamin, and there came a stage where he was like, "Mommy, but why do you need to go to the hospital again? Don't go to the hospital." So he started missing me and started missing the time with me, and that for a mom is just like, oh, you're failing terribly. And I just felt so bad, and in my mind it was like, you know what, Bertie understands. He's an adult. He understands this is just a season. We're going to get through it. Whereas Benjamin didn't understand, but why is mommy not there anymore? So I sort of poured myself a little bit more into being mommy than being wife to Patty. But coming out of this, I think lately I realized that, you know what, this is, once they're out of the house, it's gonna be the two of us, and we really need to get this right. We really need to make this strong, because they're not gonna be in our house forever. So this needs to be a priority. So I'm trying throughout all the craziness of having two little ones. I am trying to make it a priority to see, okay, what can I do to support him, or what can I do to make things a little bit easier for him. I will not say that I'm successful every time. I will not claim that, but I am trying. So yeah, I don't know if that completely answers your question.
It does answer, because it is a challenge. It's a very real challenge for moms to become wife first, and especially when there's been a trauma of sorts. So I'm sure you're not alone in that. And it's, I think for a lot of women, it's nice to hear that they're also not the only ones. It doesn't mean that you don't have to do it, because we're all in the same boat. It just means that we all face this, well, you all ladies all face that kind of challenge. Bert, I've got a very similar question to you. The question I have for you is, you stepped into provider mode. Yeah, do, bang, yeah, A, B, C, D, done. Start tomorrow, A, B, C, D, done. And it kind of, for a man, that's kind of where we thrive. When we have that formula driven way. That's kind of, we're in the groove. How's that going? Have you stepped into loving father, loving husband, probably first and foremost, and loving father, and how's that going for you?
Yeah, I think so that taught me a lot in the sense of to take more responsibility. So I believe that I'm trying my best to take, in all areas, I'm really trying to take more responsibilities in the house, and to try and lead more and to lead better. That's really something that I'm trying. And I think that was a good learning curve for me. And then from being a husband to Yolanda, and how to be able to do that, I've also learned that there is seasons. So, and that we are going through seasons, and that you shouldn't chuck the baby with the bathwater out because you are in a space in your life that you need to get through. And I think with that, to have the grace to go, okay, this is where we're at now. We'll get through this, and then we'll work through it, and then we'll take it as it comes. So I'm trying to, I love my boys, to be honest. Those two boys are very special to me. And I try my best to lead them well, especially Benjamin, to lead him in such a way that he a Christ-like way, if I put it like that. And I'm trying very hard to lead our house in a way that it honors God. I don't know if that makes sense. I think that clicked for me. It clicked for me big time, that I have a huge responsibility, and that at the end of the day, I'm going to stand before God, and I need to give an account of this house, of this household. So that's something that it hit me very hard. I'm not a teenage boy anymore that can do whatever and just it's fine and just take account for me and my stupid decisions, but that I really am now responsible for a family, and to lead them and to stand before God one day and give an account of what I've done. So that it's not an easy thing to realize, but I think I've realized it, and now it's the process of trying to do it.
Well done. Yeah. So is there anything either one of you want to add that we haven't covered, that's burning on your heart, that is something that you feel that the listeners, the viewers, listeners need to see or hear or know?
Yeah.
Bertie, you're sitting forward there.
Yes,
But
yes.
I'm very nervous for this.
No, as like for me, this, Henry, as we spoke, and one thing that just, if I can add and maybe just encourage and remind everybody of, is the fact that when you go through difficult times, you forget about the small things. You really do. You forget about the things that actually is so just steals from your marriage and from life and everything, the little foxes, that's just around there, because you don't worry about it because there's more important things that you're actually focusing on. But and I'm not saying that you have to go through a difficult time, but if we can realize that a lot of the things that we argue and fight about at the end of the day is not worth it. You argue and you fight about it, and if you sit back and you go, but what did we even argue about? What was the reason about that? If I think of this whole thing that we came through, in that time, myself and Yolanda was in the kitchen earlier on, and we said, we can hardly think of arguments. I cannot think of a time where we lost it and we argued and we tuned each other and we're nasty with each other. It was really a time where we focused on the fact that there's a whole lot more important that we're going through and we need to get through than to worry about things like, oh man, you didn't put the dishes properly in the dishwasher, or you didn't do that, or you didn't close the door, or any of those things. They're just the small things that get us angry so often. And now, when you're not going through that, to be reminded of that marriage is such a bigger thing to actually work through and to see, and the love for the person, than to rather take every small thing and make an issue about it.
Wow. But I just want to add, I also think that that you choose to go with each other. So you choose to allow God to build your character, and because circumstances will happen, and you can choose to either, like we said earlier, choose life or choose death. You can choose to let your circumstances just completely destroy you, or you can choose to put it before God and say, okay, Lord, what do you want to teach me? How do you want to build my character? How do you want to mold me? And I think going through something like that, if we needed to go through what we went through with Noah, with Benjamin, then it wouldn't have been the same, because the way we handled Benjamin's little week hospital stay, now it looks so small, like he was a week in ICU. We didn't handle it well. We were very irritable. We were very uncertain. We were first-time parents as well. So that puts a lot of strain on things as well. But we didn't handle it very well. And coming through to Noah's thing, it was so much worse. So much more things could have happened. And we handled it so much better. So I think it comes with character. It comes with God building things into your heart and into your marriage, and you allowing God to shape your marriage and to make it stronger, so that you can cope. And I think, Henry, you mentioned it earlier, at times where the one is weak, the other one needs to be strong. And you can't have two weak ones. And that was a big thing for us coming through it. On days where I was weak, he was strong. And in days where he was weak, I was the strong one. And I also think, like, going through things, you need to recognize, what does the other person need? I remember a specific day where Bertie was just feeling so discouraged. We were on our way to the hospital, and he was over it. He was over going to the hospital. He was over not seeing him progress or getting better quicker than what we wanted it to happen. And I played him a song. I remember I listened to a song the morning, and I played him a song. And he couldn't hear the song over my cell phone, and he was just like, I can't hear it. And it made such an impact for me. And I was like, oh, why are you not listening to the song? This is such a cool song. And then I realized, but that's not what he needs. And I also listened to a quote of Rocky, the movie Rocky, and I played that to him, and he was like, yeah. that amped him up, and that made him like, yes, I can carry on. And me just needing to know him and what's going to make him feel better, and being there for him and being strong for him, and the other side around, like him seeing, okay, what's going to work for me? I need a hug now, so he needs to give me a hug now, so that you can just balance it out and be there for each other. But that's also a choice of going, are you going to just fight with the other person through the tough times, or are you actually going to be united and be one and work towards the same purpose? Yeah.
Wow, yeah, incredible. I had prepared this whole ending about how I'm going to talk about unity and how we're going to talk about, forget about the small things and don't put yourself through crisis. And I was going to talk about learning these lessons from those that have been through it before you go through it. So thank you for stealing all of that from me. And I really said it better than what we probably could. And yeah, Bert, Yolanda, you guys are an inspiration.
Huge.
You guys have been through incredible times. Yes, I know it's through the grace of God that you are so strong in your marriage, that you are so strong as people, and that you were able to put it through and smile and enjoy it.
But it was their obedience,
yeah,
and understanding the roles and doing the hard work to get to know each other, and by making the choices to sacrifice. So Bert, Yolanda, I want to honor you both as awesome parents. And yeah, we can learn a lot from you. I think there's very few people that can get through a crisis like you guys have walked through and sit here smiling with an amazing testimony. I see that Fiona's actually commented there. She says, I'm really inspired by your testimony, Bert and Yolanda. And even though I'm not married yet or have children, your advice and your experience will be able to carry into my future. And there's another one by Tinas and Henri, and it says, thank you for your testimony and that you were obedient and allowed God to mold you guys to build character. So I just want to honor you both. And I know you guys have got a lot to do with our youth. And you know what? If I had young kids right now, I would be really happy that they would be under your care and your teaching, because I think you've got a lot to teach the young kids and the leaders of tomorrow by mirroring what you guys are and who you guys are. So I want to honor you and bless you for who you are.
Yeah,
thank you.
Sure. And then we want to thank you for giving up time to talk to others and be on the Marriage Hour, sharing your experiences and sharing what was a difficult time, but which is now developed into an incredible time of learning and reflection, and a time that I'm sure hasn't just only brought you closer, but also brought you closer to God in its whole. Yeah, so guys, Edward and Jackie also mentioned that it's their 14th anniversary tomorrow. And thanks for your testimony today. It feels like we still have so much to learn.
Happy anniversary for tomorrow.
Yeah,
celebrating
and it's incredible when we can listen to those that have been through the trials, and it is incredible when we can face those trials knowing that we can make it through.
If somebody else has made it through, then we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, if there's any questions, now it's the time to ask it. Bert and Yolanda are going to hang around with us for a little while. If you are done, we would like to thank all of you for listening, for watching, for being part of this, for allowing us to hopefully inspire you. And by the sounds of it, we've been able to achieve that through listening to what Bert and Yolanda have been through and what they have survived very well, I might say. So, there's another one, yeah, Bert and Yolanda. Wow, so pragtig om julle storie uit julle eie monde te hoor. Dis so wonderlik hoe julle aan die Here vasgehou het. And that's from Jaco and Robin. Yeah, guys, we are truly inspired by you. And
Thank you.
another one of inspiring and God work in our lives from Edward and Jackie. We really appreciate all the comments, guys.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you listening and
For tuning in
paying
every Monday
attention.
night, Monday night after Monday night to listen to the two of us. We're really honored. Thank you very much.
And I remind you all that we are on Facebook, doing Marriage with Henry and Lundy, where you would be kept up with everything that's taking place. Also join, or what's the word when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Doing Marriage with Henry and Lundy, where you'd be able to see past episodes when we get them loaded. There is another session next week. We just don't know what it is yet.
We're waiting another couple.
We're speaking to another couple, and we'd also like you to give us suggestions of what you'd like to hear about. Areas where you might have found it to be difficult that we haven't covered, or areas that you've heard about before and you want to hear another opinion on. Please, we do welcome those. We do welcome your input. We definitely appreciate it. And with that, thank you again, Bert and Yolanda, and thank you everyone for joining in.
Flight 20 is 8.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for having us and allowing us to share. It's been a privilege for us. And we've also learned from you guys, the marriage stuff that we've done through you. We've also learned, and things that we were able to apply and still able to apply in our marriage. So we appreciate what you guys do. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Thank you, Yolanda.
We appreciate
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you guys next
Thank
week.
you.
Okay.
Yes.
Cheers,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.